Hey guys, today I have some amazing stuff to share with you. So, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar, they started to sound like Andrew Yang. Are they endorsing Andrew Yang? Let's see what they have to say. First, let's begin with Seth Meyers' interview with Andrew Yang.
Universal basic income, which is giving every American $1,000 a month. And are you worried that because you're polling higher, that as other candidates get desperate, they'll start offering $1,100 a month?
Well, that would be a version of victory, Seth. I've said for a while that I'm either going to win or the other candidates are going to sound a lot like me.
I've put things out into the world that I've noticed other candidates a couple weeks later saying, almost verbatim.
We're automating away the most common jobs in the economy right now.
As you know, automation is transforming our economy.
It's not this cliff that we're heading towards. It's actually more of a curve that we're on. What I've been telling people is that we're in the third inning now.
And we can't pretend that it can just be stopped or reversed.
If you look at it, technology is already doing a number on each of these jobs.
So it's not about stopping or reversing technology.
But it's going to be very, very bad for many people and communities. So we have to actually change the measuring sticks to something that would actually make our economy work for us.
It is about making sure that the tectonic social and economic changes that it could drive are changes that can actually work for us.
I was with Mayor Michael Tubbs of Stockton, California. We're talking about universal basic income, which is another name this goes by. Raise your hand if you've heard of universal basic income.
There's an experiment going on right now in the city of Stockton with what's called universal basic income.
All right, so if you haven't, now you have. Universal basic income is just a policy where everyone gets a certain amount of money.
Where they're actually simply distributing payments to people to make sure that that income floor is lifted.
57% of Americans can't afford an unexpected $500 bill.
The idea is there are too many Americans who couldn't find even $400 in an emergency.
We have to accelerate both our economy and society and broaden our definitions of both work and value.
Maybe we ought to broaden our definition of work.
It's original, I'll give you that. My wife is at home.
Okay, so we all know that Andrew Yang is running on his key policy, universal basic income or freedom dividend, right? $1,000 a month. And that is because he thinks that the automation, AI, and robotics will take away a lot of more jobs. And so he wanted to have American people all share the abundance, right? The technology advances, give this financial resources to people, right? To us, $1,000 a month, and that would be a game changer for 78% of people living paycheck to paycheck, and 50% that cannot come up with a $500 emergency bill. And here we see that Mayor Pete Buttigieg is actually stealing Andrew Yang's ideas without giving Andrew Yang any credits, right? So the timelines were noted on the top left corner. We clearly see that Mayor Pete is plagiarizing Andrew Yang, and is not only that. You saw that at the debate stage, he actually laughed at Andrew Yang when Andrew Yang proposed to give 10 freedom dividends to 10 families, right? He said he was laughing, and Kamala Harris was laughing too. So Mayor Pete said, "It's original. I give you that." What I'm going to say is, hey Pete, what you were saying was not original. You were copying, literally, sometimes even verbatim. And actually, same thing happened to Joe Biden. So let's take a quick look at Joe Biden. This is funny. This is a figure made by Pete Givens about Joe Biden plagiarizing Andrew Yang. And let's watch this video and see what Joe Biden has to say.
Fine, because we're in the middle of something else going on here. Nothing to do with Donald Trump. We're in the middle of what I call, other people call, the fourth industrial revolution. Is there going to be middle class where, Moore's law, the IT, the way we're working, artificial intelligence? Look what's happened to all the retail jobs that got lost because of Amazon. Now people go to Amazon, and so all across the country, a couple 100,000 people lost their jobs. And people are worried. Truck drivers I talk to are saying, well, they're going to automate trucking. I know, and I'm not going to have a job. But I'm going to be 52 years old. I'm making $80,000 a year, busting my neck. And so,
what's the answer to that?
The answer is we've got to talk to them and tell them there's ways to do this. The way we can do this is, first of all, acknowledge. My dad also had an expression for real. He said, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problem. I expect these to understand my problem. So you go out and you say, look, these changes we can mold like we've done every other major technological revolution, going all the way back to the cotton gin and the Luddites back in England in the early 1800s. And what we have to do, though, is we have to let them know there's things. For example, we have to have continuing education. And I mean continuing education. That is when you're out of school and you've gone through high school and you've gone on a job and you end up finding out you're out of work. Well, there are 100,000 jobs out there in high-tech manufacturing that people can learn, but you need to be able to train people. So you have to be in a position where you team up with community colleges and corporations and you teach people how to run a photovoltaic machine on the floor that makes solar panels. People can do these things. They have to know. And the other side of that, I don't want to get too wonky here, but the point is that I think we should be, for example, we could easily do it, triple the money we spend for what they call Title I, which is at-risk school districts. And make sure every single child, 4, 5, and 6 years old, is 3, 4, and 5, is in pre-kindergarten because all the data's in now.
Okay, so here we clearly see that Joe Biden started talking about what I call the fourth industrial revolution, and then realized, oh, somebody else called. No, Joe, that somebody is Andrew Yang. He's the only guy who started to talk about fourth industrial revolution, self-driving trucks, and stuff. And when Stephen Coble asked Joe, so what's your solution? I almost thought that Joe Biden would say, freedom dividend, Yan 2020. Just kidding. So, see, freedom dividend is the viable solution. It's probably the only viable solution. But then Joe started to talk about, maybe we should start retraining people. I mean, that's that's like Obama's talking point, right? Is, we should start this retraining program, right? So Joe Biden, I mean, you have to come up with something original. Come on, you are the current forerunner. I mean, you are polling at 30%. I mean, you can't just use all talking points from other people, right? And but so here's the thing: Joe Biden copied Andrew Yang, and by the way, that is plagiarism. And I see that. I saw the news that Joe Biden a long while ago, actually was caught for plagiarism, during the when he was running for president. So that's a big issue. I mean, you have to give Andrew Yang the credit when you steal his talking points. And here's another evidence. So this one is even worse. This is written. This is from Joe Biden's Twitter account. So it says, this is sooner. This is pretty recent, December 6th. A job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about dignity. I think that might be from Bernie, because Bernie talked about work as a dignity, right? So that's why he wanted to $50 minimum income, minimum wage. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything is going to be okay and mean it. Oh my gosh. Andrew Yang literally said that during the last debate. I mean, everybody heard it, right? Andrew Yang said, we should be able to look into the kids in their eyes and say that everything is going to be all right and believe it. You just change believe it to mean it. And I like to say, hey Joe, you should be able to look your kid in the eye and say, listen, I just invented a new word, plagiarism. Ha ha ha. That's so hilarious. Anyways, I don't know whether you find it hilarious. I saw this joke somewhere, but anyways, I think it's very appropriate here. Yeah, and he said, "Oh, too many people today can't do that." Yes, I mean, 78% of people living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of people cannot pay $500 emergency bill. So, what's your solution? That's the question. And can you please stop plagiarizing Andrew Yang without giving him any credits? I mean, it's okay that you use his talking points, but you have to say this is originally from Andrew Yang. Okay. Yeah. So let's get back to this male Pete copying Andrew Yang. Okay. See, all these fun runners, they're doing the same thing, which is to sound like Andrew Yang. And Andrew Yang already said,
Home with our two boys, 6 and 3.
Or another candidate is going to sound a lot like me. Okay, let's play again.
Original, I'll give you that.
My wife is at home with our two boys, 6 and 3, one of whom is autistic. And what I say is like, what is her work valued at in GDP? And then people think about it and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, 0.
If you are taking care of a parent or raising a child, isn't that work? And shouldn't we honor that too?
Because GDP doesn't consider that actual economic contribution.
They're just not in the formal kind of economy, the way that they're traditionally being compensated.
We have to change the way we measure progress in our economy.
We're going to change how we establish how the economy is growing.
We have to.
Okay, so here, I thought Mayor Pete would say, I have 2 young kids. One of them is autistic, and my husband is taking care of them. That would be so hilarious. But of course, I'm joking. And he doesn't have 2 young kids that his husband is taking care of. But he could have said, oh, I have a friend whose wife is at home taking care of 2 kids. One of them is autistic. What's the GDP value her work at? 0. And we know the opposite is true. All right. Anyways, and then they started to move on to the next topic, which is how do we measure the economy with GDP or any other measurements?
How the economy is growing.
We have to actually evolve from GDP as a measuring stick.
We're not going to measure it by abstract numbers like GDP.
We need to create new measurements that actually show how we're doing.
We're going to measure it by how the 90% are doing.
Things that matter to us, like childhood success rates, mental health and freedom from substance abuse, environmental quality, median income and wealth, proportion of elderly in quality care that can actually retire with dignity.
So in my administration, I will measure America's economic success based on your paycheck.
The indicators already show that we're falling apart.
Our country's in trouble. How many of you get excited about GDP when you wake up in the morning?
GDP is going up.
America's life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years in a row.
And life expectancy is going down.
Most Americans are just tuning into 2020 right now. And most Americans are still finding out about me and the other candidates.
So now that it's starting to winnow down, people are starting to look for the contrasts. And I think it'll be important for me to convey how I'm different from the others. I like the others. I appreciate the others. I admire the others, but I'm not like the others. Right now, the growth.
Come on, Mayor Pete. So you see the timeline here, right? he's basically repeating what Andrew Yang said several months ago, and he's really, really good at. I have to give you that. You are really, really good at paraphrasing, okay, and make people believe that it is your original idea, which is lying. I mean, you're lying. You're a liar, yeah, and especially now you're saying, you know, I'm not like other candidates. People are looking at a difference. I like other candidates, but I'm not like other candidates. Come on, you sound a lot like Andrew Yang. Everybody can see that. Everybody who have heard about Andrew Yang, you know, talk about these things, can immediately recognize those. It's only those who haven't heard about him, and that's why it's so bad that media has done this blackout on Andrew Yang, so that, you know, those who heard Mayor Pete talking about these great things, borrowed from Andrew Yang, would think, oh, Mayor Pete is really smart. I like the Pete guy. I like the Pete gay, whatever. Pete Buttigieg, Buttigieg. Okay. Yeah. So let's see.
Gross domestic product is going up, and life expectancy is going down.
You sound a little bit like Andrew Yang.
One of my supporters said the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. And so that has been something of a rallying cry for me.
The American people, I think, are looking for the opposite of this president, and that's me.
The entire
I was like, what? Are you going to say the opposite of Donald Trump is is a gay man who likes math? Or anyways, is an unrich mayor who has a husband? Anyways, I'm just joking. I hope it's not too offensive. But I mean, you did something wrong first. I mean, it's not right. Everybody can see that you're lying. You're lying to people that these are your original ideas when it's not. You're saying you are not like other candidates, but you sound a lot like Andrew Yang. You're just paraphrasing him multiple times. All right, let's get back. Sorry for the interruption, but I just can't resist the temptation to make these comments.
This president, and that's me.
The entire socialism capitalism dichotomy again is out of date and is breaking down. We have to try and take the best of both worlds.
Look, I don't think that my positions are quite the same as any of the others, but
you said that neither centrist versus leftist or capitalism versus socialism is the right frame through which to view liberal politics today. So
retrain, reskill, higher productivity work, economy grows, all is well, right? So that is what the macroeconomics textbook says. And then it turns out in real life, when you go look at the numbers of what happened to manufacturing workers in Michigan or Indiana, 40 to 44% of them left the workforce and were never heard from again.
When they do all the retraining things that well-intentioned center-left programs, like some of the ones I'm running in South Bend, tell them to do, they do all the right things, and they still see their standard of living declining.
You're not going to take 500,000 middle-aged men and turn them into coders or whatever ridiculous fantasy someone is peddling.
By telling a machinist 16 years into his career that from now on he's got to be a nurse's aide. And it's a perfectly good career, but it's not how he understands how he fits into the world.
This is the buzzsaw. This is capital and technology converging in historic ways.
Part of the story of why so many are being left behind has to do with the massive forces changing the world around us: globalization, technology, automation.
Our government has been decades behind in being honest about it and addressing it.
We are probably at the dawn of a new machine age, and yet we haven't really prepared for it in terms of our policies.
If we don't, some very negative and very ugly things, from
a massive surge in alcohol use and drug overdoses,
depression,
and suicides and depression,
substance abuse, to the worst kind of white identity politics.
So that's how I came to run for president, on a platform of universal basic income.
That's why we might even need to look at guaranteed income
In response to this incredible transition we're going through.
as a policy that will help smooth the edges of that.
So you put $1,000 a month into their hands.
Just give the family a little more cash.
Well, in addition to the front runners, we also got to know some of the underdogs. And early on, a lot of people noticed that one of them, Andrew Yang, wasn't wearing a tie. Take a look at this. Yeah.
And meanwhile, while Washington's arguing over who looked best on cable today.
So I'm meeting with various legislators in D.C. being like, guys, what are we going to do? We're in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country. What is the plan? And what do you think they said to me when I said, what is the plan? There's no plan. They looked at me like I was speaking another language.
At a time when the world is moving faster than ever and our challenges are getting more urgent and more complicated than ever, Washington's ability to respond has gotten slower than ever.
So Donald Trump became president because he diagnosed correctly a lot of the problems, but his solutions are unfortunately totally backwards. His solutions are build a wall, turn back the clock, bring the jobs back.
The current White House and the campaign that got us here was the idea that we could somehow turn back the clock.
We're just not confronting it honestly.
It's not honest.
And what I'm saying is we have to move the clock forwards.
Well, that's a very good way of looking at it.
No, and it's just facts. A very, very data-driven man. The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. That's why I'm gonna beat him in 2020. It's gonna be glorious. Put the money in.
Okay, so and another so one evidence is the timeline, right? Mayor Pete basically repeated Andrew Yang, often 1 month or several months after Andrew Yang said those things, and he could have read Andrew Yang's book too, and also you see that sometimes Mayor Pete was reading right from his drafts. And that never happened to Andrew Yang. Have you ever seen Andrew Yang reading something when he talk? Never ever. It's speaking from his heart. Somebody said that fact checking Andrew Yang is like spell checking a dictionary. But yeah, so that's Mayor Pete copying Andrew Yang.
All right, so that's kind of disgusting, is to copy Andrew Yang without giving him any credits. And let's listen to this talk by Pete Buttigieg in its entirety, and then you'll have a sense.
I've put things out into the world that I've noticed other candidates a couple weeks later saying, almost verbatim.
As you know, automation is transforming our economy, and we can't pretend that it can just be stopped or reversed. It is about making sure that the tectonic social and economic changes that it could drive are changes that can actually work for us. There's an experiment going on right now in the city of Stockton with what's called universal basic income, where they're actually simply distributing payments to people to make sure that that income floor is lifted. The idea is there are too many Americans who couldn't find even $400 in an emergency to get them through that. What we've got to do in that environment is make it less of a disruptive event in your entire life. We've got to pay attention to the fact that when somebody loses their job or is transitioning jobs, what's at stake isn't just their income, it's their identity. That's okay as long as we have other things to replace that lost sense of identity. And I think there's some very good answers for that. Maybe we ought to broaden our definition of work. So for example, if you are taking care of a parent or raising a child, isn't that work? And shouldn't we honor that too?
You sound a little bit like Andrew Yang.
Yeah, so now that you listen to his talk in its entirety, you have a better sense that he's literally copying Andrew Yang verbatim. It's talking points after talking points. And what is your solution, Mayor Pete? Is that freedom dividend? You're almost there. I mean, how do you solve this problem? A lot of people cannot come up with a $400 emergency bill. And how do you redefine the broader definition of work? It's the freedom dividend, $1,000 a month. The Andrew Yang proposed that can, be recognized. Can use to recognize the, caretaker and stay-home mom, their value, right? Anyway, that's really, really disgusting and, dishonest. Let's move on to Elizabeth Warren. So let's take a look at this is hilarious too. Elizabeth Warren Okay. Can you hear it? Let me start it again.
Here we go. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, Senator Warren. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My
Thank
name
you.
is David 50.
David?
David 50.
Okay, David 50.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
I'm a PhD candidate.
Woohoo!
And teaching assistant here in the mathematics department at
Whoa,
UNH.
math! Wow.
I was really
okay.
excited to hear that you loved math. So.
I do. I do. In fact, I want you to do this. Go to my website, look at our plans, and add up the math. It actually adds up. It's amazing. I had a math teacher come up to me in Milwaukee and say, I just want you to know I went to your website, checked out all your numbers. They checked out. So, good. Okay. Here we go. Hi.
Okay, that's hilarious. Elizabeth Warren literally just endorsed Andrew Yang and his math. I like Warren's reactions, like being very dramatic. Wow, math. I do like math. Yeah. So everybody knows that Andrew Yang said the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. So Elizabeth Warren, are you going to say the opposite of Donald Trump is an Indian American woman who likes math? All right. Next, let's listen to Amy Klobuchar. This is from Twitter account of Mossadegh Bidar.
Cannot stress enough how our rules and our laws are not as sophisticated as what's going on in our economy when it comes to tech. Think about the fact that our privacy laws were set up decades ago, and that all of this has happened before we even had Facebook or Twitter or Google or Amazon, and we need to upgrade our laws to be as sophisticated as the people that are making money off the individual citizens' data. And so that is one. So I would go two ways with it. One is this tax on data, not on the individuals, but on the people that are trying to make money off you. And the second is some privacy rules that work on this digital highway. I cannot stress enough.
So this is December 5th, 2019, and Amy Klobuchar is talking about, we have to figure out a way to, upgrade the laws, right? And figure out a way to tax those who make money out of our data. And for those of you who look into Andrew Yang's policies, you probably know a long time ago Andrew Yang already proposed, our data are our properties. And this is what Andrew Yang said. This is recorded October 14th, 2019 from NBC News. Okay.
We have to find out how they're monetizing our information and then get a fair share of that. Right now, it's difficult to determine precisely because we don't know what they're doing with our information.
Technology companies are selling and reselling our data, and we're none the wiser. We don't know what's happening. We just hope for the best. And we're seeing none of that value. At this point, our data is worth more than oil. If that's the case, then we should be benefiting from it, not just the companies. It's our data, it's our value, it's our property. Getting us a share of that value will be an immense game changer for many, many Americans. It's not just about the money, though. It's about the control, it's about the autonomy, it's about the agency. It's our data, we should know what's happening to it, and we should be able to change our preferences and even turn it off if we wish. Right now, we have this lack of data dignity. There's a tyranny of the tech companies, and then we're just looking up and hoping for the best. We can change that. There is more value to be generated if we buy in and accept it, because right now a lot of the data that's getting sold and resold is anonymized. It's anonymous. But imagine if I said, look, if you decide to resell the data, I'll actually answer questions from that vendor. I'll actually add value. Then the value that the company's getting and the value that we're getting can shoot way up. And that does correspond to our willingness to participate.
What is
is your response to criticisms that it's only going to lead to more problems rather than fewer?
If it was on the companies where we owed them money, then we know there'd be absolutely no issue. But it's because they are taking our data and profiting from it that it's somehow an administrative burden that it really doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so the question now is, why do these Democratic presidential hopefuls steal Andrew Yan's good ideas? And this is an article written by Lawrence Watt. We'll just quickly go through it from CCN. Elizabeth Warren said she'd be open to the idea of UBI, and she's the latest Democratic candidate warming up to Andrew Yan's ideas. And Democratic forerunners will need support from the Yang gang to take on President Trump in 2020. So Andrew Yan's campaign has been really, really impressive, and so people have started to adopting his ideas, right? Because they're effective. So Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, they both we showed that they both steal Andrew Yan's ideas about automation and UBI, and they did surge in the polls, especially male Pete Buttigieg, and that was very, very effective. And Tulsi Gabbard also praised Andrew Yan's idea, right? Said, my friend Andrew Yang and his UBI is a good idea. And so basically, why are they copying Andrew Yang? So currently, Andrew Yang is 6th place and is remarkable for an entrepreneur and non-politician. And so he has, excellent ideas. And that's why people are copying him, and without giving him credits that can actually, do their good, benefit their polling, as we have seen. What happened to Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, and we see that Joe Biden rarely made any gaffes when he repeated Andrew Yan's ideas, but he sometimes had problem defending it because it's not his original idea. And so they would also need the support from Andrew Yang, right? So the fans of the math enthusiast will be drawn to the politicians who talk the same game about UBI and job automation. So it is possible that the 2024 runners are warming up to the idea of UBI because they believe it's what America needs. But it's also possible that the reasoning is more sinister. Biden, Warren, Pete Buttigieg want the White House, and the Yang gang could be on their golden ticket. This is edited by Geraldine Terzel. But you have to be careful, because once Yang gang found out you're copying Andrew Yang without, giving any credits to him, and that's plagiarism, and, they're lying, you're not being honest about the idea being original. So that's what I believe what's going to happen to Pete Buttigieg, Biden, and Warren. So I hope you enjoyed it, and like, subscribe, and comment below.